Ladies and gentlemen, today is March 20th, 2013, and this is the KNKL Emma Stream Day 34, where we learn to read comics, or we learn to make comics, because you watch me. Usually that's what we do, but today we are going to be doing a post-mortem of the recent release of the Emma Issue 2, Part 1, but before we get into that, I want to take a stroll down, just a little something I like to call the lovely lane, because we have something new submitted to us from the lovely Emily Davidson, who did this beautiful picture. I actually really like this style. I just saw it, I was like, this is so dang cute. And she took it upon herself to go ahead and illustrate Emma in an awesome style, and it just made me so happy. I was really, really proud that she got like the tooth thing. Like, for those of you who bought the Issue 1 Collector's Edition, you would know that Emma's teeth are not perfectly straight. They actually have a little bit of a toothy thing going on there. So thank you, Emily, and thank you to everyone who has been submitting things to the Facebook. Before we jump into the postmortem, I want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone who's been donating this month. I think it's really cool. Since I started doing this, it's like every day, basically, people are all like contributing more and more. People are buying the comics. So I'm happy that you guys are finding value in this. If you'd like to get your name on this list, simply go to the Emma comic page and click the donate button, and then donate as little or as much as you want, and then I'll feature your name on here throughout the month. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get started on this postmortem. So what I'm going to do here is, today we're going to be focusing on, we're going to be talking about layouts, we're going to be talking about everything that went into basically what made up part 1 of issue 2, right? And we'll be going page by page, and I'm hoping that I can fit all this within an hour, like into an hour. I'll just be talking about my thought processes and where all that stuff went to the best of my ability. And this will be deemed a sort of director's commentary that I can direct people to when we release the Issue 2 Collector's Edition. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with the chicken scratches, right? So this is where the comic starts, right? I just take a big page and I start laying out all of these different ideas that I have. Like, obviously you can see what's happening there. But yeah, there's a few in here that I do multiple times. There's a few that I'll try just different ideas on. And yeah, this is basically my brainstorming stage, and I really, really enjoy doing this. So right here, we're gonna start with page 1. Okay? So let's go ahead and switch back and forth between these two here. So page 1, as you can tell, as you have seen. And by the way, if you haven't seen this, then please go to Emma Comic Online and read this now, and then watch this later on YouTube. But or you can just read it with me. I will tell you a story. Sit down, grab a glass of hot chocolate, and I'll tell you a story. All right. So the final layout that we decided to go with was this cool kind of panoramic shot of our biker dudes kind of approaching this house that we left Emma in at the end of issue 1. All right. And so let's see how I got to that. Let's go ahead and check that out. So this was actually the very first idea that I had for page 1. Right, it was going to be like this pirate flag. It was going to be a close-up on the pirate flag, kind of like waving in the wind. It's all like, you know, imagine it's like an anime. It's like whoosh, like that, right? And it's like the sun is like beaming through it. It looks all epic and awesome. And then I was like, but it's just a flag, and it's not really that important. That's more of like something I want people to see and just kind of take note of, but I don't want it to be like a central point of it. So, but I did come up with this idea right here, where I was going to start laying in the bikes in like this panoramic shot. Then I also had another thing where it's basically, here I'll illustrate what this is. It's a guy that's going like this, and that's his hand gripping the handlebar, and you can see the house over here on that side. Right, that's what that's supposed to be. For any of these pages that don't make sense, that's what I'll illustrate them in the little panel up here. You can watch me and I'll illustrate what's happening. So that was one of the first ideas that I had for page 1. So let's go ahead and move to another one. I think I only did one other rendition of this one. Yeah, it was right here. This is when I decided that I wanted to have, you know, another thing that I realized is that I need a big establishing shot, right? I gotta assume, I assume that people are going to be going from issue 1 to issue 2 for the most part, but I need to at least establish, that way, imagine somebody's picking this comic up for the first time in the stands. They need to know what's kind of happening, where the scene is taking place. So that's why I decided to go ahead and take that cool panoramic shot of the motorcycles that I liked, and then also put in this big thing of the house. Hang on, I gotta check this. My buddy David. I wanted my buddy David to come by, and David, for those of you who don't know, is the other guy that's helping me write the story. And I wanted him to come and join me for a little bit of this postmortem. We were talking about, you know, kind of what the experience has been making this, but he's not feeling too good, so maybe he can catch us next time. I don't know. We'll see. All right, so moving on. You can see I put in this cool establishing shot of the house, and that was what ended up being used in the final piece here. So yeah, let's see some of the challenges that were big on this one. And by the way, today is a little bit more of like a laid-back episode, so I think it would add a lot of value if people would ask questions in the chat to your right. So it's constant question catapults all day long. So if you have ideas or have questions, then please cast them. And I'll be sure to like look over here in the chat every now and then and see if I can answer things. Alrighty. And there are some questions already coming in. Valkio D is asking about if I'm going to make a portrait of Nico. And the answer to that is yes! I believe I will. I believe I will. I'm assuming you're talking about like the semi-realistic portrait I did of Emma. And yes, I actually do want to do one of Nico too. I think that'd be really fun. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and load up page 2. And let's go ahead and talk about that. Go on back to this. So you can see there was a couple things that I was actually planning here. This was an idea that I had for page 2. Basically, let's zoom in and use our imaginations here, right? Because these are the chicken scratches. Let's use our imaginations. These are some bikes. Here, let me actually pull this up so you can see. These are some bikes. That's the house, right? And this represents them kind of pulling up to the house. And then this big shape here is supposed to be Emma's head, like she's peering outside of the window and like looking at them, right? And then I just kind of, you know, canned it right there because I just didn't really feel like... oftentimes I find myself asking, does this page really need to be in there? Like, what if this page was completely eliminated out of the entire part, right? Is it going to damage it, or is it going to make it more efficient and allow people to continue with the story? And oftentimes I find myself eliminating panels, eliminating entire pages. You know, eliminating things out is basically like cutting the fat off of the meat, right? You got the meat right there, a big old chunk of meat, and you're cutting off all the fat off of it. And so I decided, okay, I'm probably not going to do something like that, or maybe I'll do something like that later. But so I went to this panel here. So you have the tire screeching to a halt, right? That's what we got going on here. And you got the tire screeching to the halt and then the foot coming down. I knew that I liked that. I knew that I wanted to preserve that. So that's basically what's happening here. It's like that. And then there's the foot coming down. The guy's like looking off to the side. Like he's got his goggles like that. And then he like lifts them. And he says, this is it, right? But check out how I condensed all those panels into a much more simple layout. I went from there to there, you know, with the wheel and the foot. And then I got him looking up, cool kind of wide panoramic shot. And at the same time, I took advantage of the pirate flags here. This was a cool time for me to really show off the pirate design of the flags. And then I realized you don't even have to show what he's looking at, right? He's stopped, he's looking at something, says this is it. The page before shows them approaching a house, so you can therefore infer that he's looking at the house. So, all right, but going back to this, there was a couple of things that I did here. There was a couple different versions of this page that I put together. Here's another one. Again, look at how I'm doing this. I probably took this page and then I kind of brought it all down here. I'll just kind of copy it, paste it down, and then I'll start moving things around, like just generally, especially while it's rough. This is the time where you really want to just start messing around with stuff. And look here. Now we're getting closer to what we have. We have the tire skidding to a halt. We have the foot on the ground. We have him looking, lifting his goggles, but then we have that other panel right there that got eliminated, which was him looking at the house. And then, so then again, moved it right over. Tire skidding, foot down, looking, and then we close up on his eyes, and that's what it ended up being. All right, so now we're going to actually move on into, while I load up page 4, I'm going to take some questions because it might take a quick second. It might take a hot second to load it. All right, Poizu is asking, which panels do you decide will work best out of the thumbnail? how do I decide which ones are best? Like, how do I decide which ones to keep and which ones to eliminate? That's a great question. Great question. The way that I like to decide which ones I keep and which ones I eliminate is, like I said before, it's like you see the panel of him looking at the house. We don't need to show that. We know he's looking off in the distance. We see him raise his goggles. He says, "This is it," right? That's what was supposed to be said here, but I just put it at the bottom of this panel over here, and it worked just as fine. And yeah, that's what I find myself saying. Is like, is there a way to make this more efficient? Is there a way to make this more efficient? And then another thing that I like to do is sometimes I notice how like this panel is cutting into this one, you know, where he's looking off to the side. I felt like this was a really cool panel to really play with, and I wanted to play up the drama that's happening there. So I didn't want it to have like interrupted on the side with another panel overtaking. I wanted it to be like a nice panoramic bleed shot and just have it be dramatic. So yeah, all kinds of good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So let's go ahead and with the, hang on. All right, so moving on into the next page, I actually decided to eliminate an entire page here. And that was page 3. Some of you guys were saying, you noticed the file names on the site. There's actually no page 3 in part 1 of issue 2. And that's because this was supposed to be page 3. So again, I decided that I was going to end page 2 with him lifting his goggles, and then page 3 again was this panel of him looking at the house, which I decided later on I didn't really need. Then another thing that happened here was I was supposed to introduce Tank's right-hand man, which is Clem. Clem basically is saying something after he says, "This is it." He says, "Are you sure?" You know, or like, "Why are we stopping here?" Something to that extent. And then right here in this panel, let's use our imaginations again. It's going to get nice and close up on that. There's Tank, and he's saying something, and then see that shape right there? That's Emma's head and her hand. So it's basically that old panel that we were talking about, and it's just kind of been shrunk down, and she's looking at Tank. He's talking about, you know, kind of confirming or defending why he wants to stop here, and then she's kind of looking out. So the reason why I decided to get rid of this was because originally why I put it here was to introduce Clem's character, and let's go ahead and, oh wait, that's the next page. We don't have page 3 to look at. One is to introduce Clem, and then 2 was to establish that Emma is in the house, right? And then I realized as I was getting towards the end here, you know, I really just wanted to have the issue done, right? And page 3 was going to have to be the very last one that I was going to do. And I was just like really not looking forward to doing it. And so I asked myself, why am I really not looking forward to doing this page? Other pages I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to do this. Cannot wait to do this. And this page 3 was just, it felt like a sore, right? It just felt like this thorn in my butt, and I really didn't want to bother with it. So I asked myself why. And then I realized that the whole thing was just, it was filler. It's just a bunch of fat. It doesn't have to be there. You can cut it all away. I can introduce Clem later. You know, we're gonna find out about him later. And then also, we know that Emma's in the house. You know, we don't need to know that Emma's in the house right now, right? We find out she's in the house when Nico's in there looking around, and then Emma peeks out from behind the corner. Even somebody who picks up the issue for the first time, you know, doesn't have to be educated that Emma is in the house, right? So that is why I decided to completely eliminate this page. And that makes me happy. Moving on to page 4. How are we doing on time? Hey, sweet. We're doing good. At this pace, we'll be able to go ahead and finish all this up, and then I'll be able to get into some points that I want to talk about as far as like experiences with the business and like hopefully some words of wisdom that I picked up along the way that I kind of want to pass to you guys. Some cool things that deal with, you know, staying motivated with projects that you're doing, all those kinds of things. So, but before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and load another page and take a question here. Valkyo D is also asking, will there be spin-off comics focused rather on the world rather than on the main characters? Valkyo, I don't know if you've downloaded the digital edition, but the mini comics, the little side stories that are featured in there, are dealing with like a zombie type world. In fact, it could be the exact same type of zombie world that Emma's in. but it doesn't focus on any of the main characters. It's more just for fun. And yeah, that's basically our spin-off comic. It's the extra cool stuff that you get when you decide to buy the comic, along with the concept art and the little thank you note that you get from me. So yes, we do plan on doing it, and we're doing it right now. And if you haven't checked it out on the digital edition, I highly recommend you go see that because it's pretty sweet. All right, so moving on to page 4. We've got Tank looking to the side. And I always think this is really fun to like pay attention and like kind of look at how one thing gets translated to another. One, like the beginnings and just the chicken scratches that eventually become the final comic. Because a lot of people see this and they're like, oh, I have to draw that. You know, I have to draw that exact character. But really, no, that's not what you have to do. What you have to do is this. This is where all the magic happens, really. This is where the layout happens, this is where you figure out how everything is going to work together. Then you improve upon that, clean it up, clean it up. You got that big old slab of marble, and then you chip away at it, and then eventually you have the finished comic. So, alright, so check this out. Oh, this is actually bringing back some good memories. So Tank is looking to the side, right? He's like, where's the runt? And then originally what I had planned was Nico was going to be in the crowd already, like of the bikers, and all of these things are like fingers pointing at him, right? So that was one idea that I had. But then I had another idea. It's like, oh, what if he's like lagging behind? What if he has like the little putt-putt motorcycle that he can barely keep up with the rest of the group? So here we have a guy kind of pointing back, and originally it was going to be an unmasked man, right? He had, like a little eye patch there. He's like talking, right? And then he's kind of putting down over the horizon, and then we have a close-up on Nico. And I think that's about as far as, yeah, I did these 2 variations on it. And then, as you can see, what I did here is I actually made a couple changes, right? Here we have the same panel in the beginning, where's the runt? But then the guy that was originally going to be unmasked and kind of like a pirate guy talking, I decided to go ahead and keep him completely masked up. And I did this because I want to really kind of highlight, I feel that any characters, and this is something that I learned while I was working at Riot, is that if you want certain characters to sort of support the main characters, right? The best way to do that is to not show eyes, don't show faces, don't have them talk, but you can still have them be an integral part in like leading the reader and telling the story, right? So I decided to go ahead and keep him completely masked up, and instead of him saying something, he just kind of turns nonchalantly to the side and just waves his thumb. So I thought that was really, really cool. And I like the way that turned out. And then we got these panels right here with Nico coming up. Alright, so let's move on to page 5. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I actually really, really am enjoying this. This is really fun. We're definitely going to be doing this with every part that comes out now. Alright, so we got page 5 coming in here, right? We got Tank. Let's go ahead and pull that up really quick so you can see what that looks like. So we've got Tank and Nico kind of putting up to him, exchanging conversation, Tank up close, Nico looking back, like that, right? Let's head on over here, and you can see how that basically got translated. Again, check this out. He putts to a stop, he talks to Tank, we have the close-up on Tank's face, Nico's looking to the side, and then again, we have this panel where he's looking at the house. He's looking at the house, and then I realized you don't need to show that. All you need to do is just have him looking that way, and people will know what he's looking at. So, I think that was the only variation of that page that I did. Yeah, that one just came right together. So, yeah, not much to say about this one. Just the fact that, yeah, basically just came together. The one thing that I did decide to do later was actually add in something that Tank was saying here. Because originally it was just, for those of you who watched, I think it was the last Emma stream right before it came out. I think it was actually the last Emma stream, the 33, day 33. I just put in Nico saying, why did we stop? And Tank was saying nothing. But now that we're introducing more characters, I want to start getting into the habit of getting multiple characters to converse in one panel. So this was kind of like dipping my toe in the water, so to speak. So let's go ahead and load up another couple pages, and I will take another question. Let's load up page 6 and 7. All right. Wait, is this loading? Okay, there it goes. Lovely. Alrighty, peoples. Page 6, let's go ahead and pull you up. Alright guys, so we're talking about page 6. This is basically Nico conversing with Tank again, saying, we don't have to do this right now. Why don't we just sit back and enjoy this thing? And then he gets the shotgun jammed into his chest, and he falls off his bike. Everybody laughs at him. Okay, so let's go ahead and check out how that came together. So these are the original sketches here. So you'll notice a common thing that I like to do with sketches is I'll not only throw in the characters, but when they're speaking, I really like to quickly throw in the chat bubble there and then write something like "not now," which is the basic thing of what he's saying, right? Just so I can be ready to, so I know not to put a lot of detail in that area where the balloon's going to be over, right? And oftentimes I'll throw in the ideas of the sound effects that I want, like whap. And this one was wham, but that eventually got changed to slump. And you can see here, originally, there's going to be more unmasked men with their mouths, and they're pointing at him. But strangely, they're off their bikes now, so I had to go back and I had to figure that out. And then another idea that I had, which I thought was pretty fun, was I decided to create this panel from the view of Nico, right? Imagine if you fell off the bike, right? And then you looked over to the side, that is what you would see if you were Nico. So, yeah, that was actually pretty fun to do. And again, I had the guys on their bikes. And it's so funny, when I have people come over and read this part, I always see them turn their head to look at it. It makes me laugh every time. Love it. But you can see here the sound effect, whap, that was kept, and then slump was changed. There was some big challenges with this one, actually. I found it hard to, you'll notice I was really trying to push the silhouette of Tank's hand going into Nico's chest with the shotgun. So I actually colored Nico's clothes, or simulated a bright light on it, right? So that way when you squint your eyes, you can see this, solid shape coming in and making contact with him. Because if I would have kept Nico's clothes that dark down here, then it would have blended all the colors together. And like I said at the beginning, one of my main goals for this comic is for it to be readable from a distance, right? I want people to be able to tell what's going on very quickly, so they can almost browse through it they can read through it very quickly, and they're not interrupted, they're not taken out of the fantasy. They're not taken out of the fantasy and have to figure out, wait, what's going on there? What? Oh, okay, I can see now. Because as soon as somebody has to figure out what's going on in a panel, you take them out of the fantasy. So that's a big thing that I always try to do. And then another interesting thing here, there was readability problems all over this one. Another big thing was having Nico fall off the edge of the bike, right? Because there's dark colors here. So I decided to put in a lot of lighter colors here, just fog or dust, whatever you want to call it. But basically I just had to break this shape off of this shape. Two dark colors meeting together. Squint your eyes, just becomes one thing. So I was able to handle that, and you'll notice a couple of things that I did was I actually went into the lines and actually erased a little bit of the lines on the edges of where his boot is. And all that good stuff, just all these little things to really improve the readability, because I wanted people to go directly from this and then understand what was happening there. It's oh, he fell off his bike. And then you're one of those guys down there. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to page 7. Page 7 is fairly straightforward. You got Tank basically talking down to Nico, saying, "You'll do exactly as I say." Nico gets up and dramatically says, "My name's Nico." And then he walks over to the house. Oh, Poizu is asking a great question. She is asking, how long does it take to thumbnail the whole 10 pages? Thumbnailing actually doesn't take too long. I can actually get it done within about 2 to 3 days if I work for maybe 4 to 5 hours a day, right? So yeah, it's not too bad. You can usually get the thumbnailing done really, really quickly, so you get the scope of everything that you want to happen. So it looks like page 7 came together pretty well too. It came together, I knew exactly pretty much what I wanted to have happen there, right? So I got the chat box here. I knew that I wanted Tank to be saying something. I put twerp, right? I was thinking he needs to call him some sort of funny name. Eventually, David and I, David actually suggested that we use Small Fry, and I really, really like Small Fry, so I use that. It's kind of Tank's nickname for Nico. And so Nico's up, and then we got the house there, and he's walking in. Although the interesting thing that you'll notice that I did was I decided to actually move Nico back away from this like banister. Is that what you call it, a banister? Or just from the porch? Because as you know, the style of the comic is actually to line the characters, and then the background elements are painted, much like a classic kind of cartoon type thing. And whenever you put a painted character behind like a, or whenever you put a lined character behind a painted object, kind of looks a little funny. Like in issue 1, when Emma is like saying "Hi, Buttons," right? When she's behind the little railing there, um, it worked better there because it was more of like a shape. But when it's like a lighter color, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do that. So in order to kind of solve that problem, I decided to just move him just off the edge of the railing, so he's not behind it quite yet. But you know where he's going. And oh, and I also decided to add birds. And the reason why I added birds there was because later on, when Nico shoots the shotgun, I thought it would be cool to, I thought it would help communicate the fact of what happened if there were birds on the roof and then they flew away after the gun was shot. They got scared and flew away. And I felt like that worked with amazing success. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to page 8 and 9. And yes, for those of you who are not running ad blocker, my friend uses it, and if you get it, you do not have to deal with the stupid commercials that come on Ustream. I do not get any money from them, although I wish I did. But since I don't, my friend would recommend to you that you get AdBlock Pro. So you can watch the stream uninterrupted. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and move on to page 8. Alright, so you got Nico walking up the porch. You got him looking down, seeing the zombie head, walking in, and talking to himself. And then kind of looking around. Then we have this transitionary thing right here, and then we go to Emma's world. So let's go ahead and take a look at how I decided to lay that out. Looks like this one came together pretty well too. So yeah, it actually looks like it came together almost exactly how I put it down. So I laid out, I knew that I wanted to have these panels here, right? And then Nico's kind of like tiptoeing, right? Kind of like tiptoeing with the shotgun over the zombie corpse there. Says something here, and then we have a shoom, and I put real world, fake world, just in case I forgot for some reason. So it could be clear, and I wouldn't forget. Although the interesting thing is that like this shape is actually supposed to be the zombie's foot, and I tried drawing it that way, and it just didn't work. So I just ended up making it into a shape. So let's go ahead and go back to page 8, and let's talk about some of the challenges that happen with this. One of the things that keeps recurring, and I kind of like this, it was kind of a stylistic choice that I decided to do in issue 1, was anything that's kind of like a liquid or like a blood type thing, I'll actually color the lines. Most of the lines I want to try to keep them black, but for the like gooey stuff and like water and blood, I really like to color the outside edges of them just like darker purple, you know, or just whatever darker version of whatever color it is. And I'll actually put some extra detail into it, you know, like see I put like the little speculars, little shiny bits on it. I don't know, I think that adds a little bit of an extra element of awesomeness. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I like the contrast of having these really kind of flat characters with just like little gradients on them, and then having like any elements they interact with being a little bit more realistic. So another thing that I really wanted to do, and I was talking with David about this, was I wanted Nico to be sort of like the, you know, he talks a lot. He talks fast and he talks a lot. So he asked me a question. He's like, how do you show that somebody's talking fast in a comic? How do you show that? And that question actually puzzled me. I was curious. I was like, yeah, how do you make someone seem like they're talking fast? And I was like, well, maybe we can just put a lot of bubbles, you know, put a lot of bubbles on the page and then just have them talk a lot. Like a minimum, like I said, like, hey, that'd be cool if there was like a minimum of like 2 bubbles coming out of Nico and everything that he said, you know, so that way when people read it, it's like, oh, look at that, a nice decapitated zombie corpse. It's okay, totally normal, you know. So you read it as, you know, he's talking fast and he talks a lot. And then another thing was, this is supposed to be a sarcastic comment as well, right? So I was like, how do you imply that the character is being sarcastic? So I had the idea you know, kind of in anime, how they have, when they get scared, they have like those black lines that come over their faces. I was like, well, I don't want to like have the comic style is very much based off of anime, but I don't want to have like the giant teardrops like forming on the side of people's faces, and like by the same token, I don't want to have the black lines on the faces. So I decided I'm gonna kind of take that. I'm gonna put it on the side of the chat bubble and see what it does. And I don't know, just when I put it there, it just, I don't know, I liked the way it read. I liked the way it read, and it felt like it added that little extra, hey, there's something about this balloon that's different. You know, he's saying a nice decapitated zombie corpse, but he's not like excited about it. You know, he's being sarcastic and walking. So that was the reason why I put those there. And hopefully, I don't know if that worked out. You guys in the chat can say, oh yeah, that totally made sense, you know, or it subconsciously, you know, you knew that he was saying it like that. Or if you thought it was a dumb idea, then that's good too. I value all feedback. So another thing that I ended up changing here was, originally he was saying two things. He's saying this place is pretty trashed, and then I had this bubble right here, and then there was like a connection right here, right? And it said, I doubt there's anything still usable in here. But the reason why I decided to move it was because it was sort of, I mean, I really believe in flow. Like I always talk about flow, right? And I really believe that anywhere that this, not only where the tail is pointing, right? It's pointing to Nico, but where it leads, it's also going to direct your eye. So I wanted people to go from here into this and then flow right into this panel, right? And then look at Emma. So by having the other panel down here, or having the other balloon down here, you were forced to go like this, follow that tail down, read this, and then you kind of look here at Emma, you know, and then you kind of go over here. It just felt a lot more forced, and I didn't like that. So I decided to move this right over, and everything ended up working out perfectly. And I was actually playing around with a lot of ideas of how to make Emma look like she's really in the fantasy world. So that leads us to page 9. Let's go ahead and pull that up. Okay, so right up here, page 9, fake world, right? Just in case I forgot, just in case I took a nap and woke up and forgot everything. Toothbrush, showing the importance. Don't want to forget that. Oh, I put the teddy bear there, and I was like, do I need this here? And I realized that I did not have, like, one thing that I wish I kind of would have done, looking back on this, is I wish I would have had another establishing shot when Nico walked into the house. So that way we could see, oh, hey, like, this place is completely different from what Emma saw, you know? And we could show that the bear's there, right? Because someone who's picking up this comic for the first time isn't going to know that there's a bear in the house. So, you know, they're reading it for the first time, imagine, and they just see this here. It's like, wait, what is that? Is that a bear? What is that? And then it's just a little confusing, so I wish I would have kind of laid that out a little bit better. So another thing I decided to do was start laying in kind of this film grain effect. And this little symbol here, like these two lines, and then one has a split through it, I think is kind of what I'm going to use to characterize Emma when she is kind of in that delusional fantasy state. And yeah, I was just kind of playing around with symbols, and I just kind of messed with a couple lines, and then I did that. Originally, I was like having all these lines go through it, so it looked like some old nasty, grainy film. And then I kind of erased a lot of the lines. I erased a lot of them and just kept like just a couple there. And I was like, hey, I kind of like that. I like that a lot. So let's go ahead and move on into here. Oh, this was the original. I actually ideated on this a couple times. I concepted a couple different ideas. So originally it was going to be Emma kind of walking out saying something, and she was going to be kind of in shadow, right? So then we have Nico kind of getting scared. You know, obviously there's like this shadowy figure walking towards him. Of course he's going to freak out. And then I had a close-up on him kind of pulling or holding the trigger, right? Like he's getting ready to shoot. Spins around, and then bam! And then you got the birds flying away. All right, so that changed into this one here. So what did I do differently here? I think I was like, oh, okay, fake world. I was like, fake world here. Emma's in shadow. I don't know exactly what I was doing here. I think I was still kind of confused. But then again, my buddy came up to me and he's like, hey, well, how about we just like divide the panel, have a nice big long panoramic panel, and divide it in half and show the difference between, you know, Emma and Nico. And then that reminded me of a really cool piece of fan art that Alicia actually did on Facebook. And she did like this really cool fan comic of Emma and Nico, and it was basically a panel that was split down the middle. It was kind of like shattered down the middle. And so naturally I thought of that. I was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's use that. So, and by the way, thank you, Alicia, for inspiring that. Genius! I steal your genius and put it into my comic. And she will be getting a credit for that, so don't you worry. Don't you worry out there, ladies and gentlemen. If you do something that contributes greatly to the comic, something that I use, I will put your name in the comic. And if you contribute a great amount, then who knows, I can even put you down as a concept artist. You know? And if this keeps going good, then one day I'll be able to actually hire people and pay them instead of having them just work from the goodness of their heart and for a credit in the book, which is still pretty cool. Pretty happy with that. You can put that on your resume. Be like, I worked for Emma, the online comic. Oh yeah. So this is the final idea that we had here, and you can see how that translated right over into this. We got the shattered effect of the panel here. Got the grains going through it. That little symbol that represents Emma, what's going on with her. And then, yeah, we decided, David came up with the idea he wanted Nico to be saying something here. Because originally I was just going to have him go whoosh, like flip around and not say anything and just shoot. But he said it would be funny to have him say, like yell out something funny here. And we came up with a bunch of different lines that he could say. But originally, at the end, right before we changed it the last time, it was just going to be him yelling like, Gah! Like that, right? Spinning around yelling, Gah! But then I came up with the idea is maybe he really doesn't like zombies, right? So he would say something like, I'll never be one of you. And then he pulls the trigger and shoots, but he has terrible accuracy, and he completely misses, luckily for Emma. And this was another really, really cool panel. I really, really enjoyed doing this page. I was super excited to do this page because I really wanted to push the contrast between Emma's world and Nico's world, or rather the real world. And so I decided to make the colors more vibrant and make Emma's world a lot more desaturated. And let's go ahead and move into that idea that we had here. All right, so we've got Emma here. We've got like some sound effect happening. I was trying to figure out how to show the transition of her being knocked out of her world. I was thinking maybe it could be like dripping or kind of like melting away. I don't know. I just had a bunch of different ideas. But eventually what I ended up with was, you can see here, is just all I had to do is just kind of like have those little grains kind of like breaking, you know, like putting little dashes through them, and then having this kind of like fuzzy, you know, sound effect. And I feel like that really kind of showed that something was happening, and her eyes are all small, obviously, so she's all scared. And then we see here basically what happened. Nico missed. He shot right between Emma and the bear, or rather hit the side of the bear's head and basically blew it half open, and then shot the fluff everywhere all over Emma. And this is a cool idea that me and Jake actually came up with. We wanted to have a funny scene where the bear basically gets exploded, and then the fluff goes all over the place and all over her. So then you have Nico saying, "What? You're not a..." And then she's rushing him by that point, already in her fight or flight mode. So yeah, that's basically what we stayed with. You can see the beginnings of this. It's like little stick figure Emma, little teddy bear with its head blown off, Nico, and then Emma running. So yeah, there were some cool things here. Some things that actually changed later on, as you notice in the first layout, Emma was very straight up and down. Like you look here when she's running, straight up and down, and she's actually behind this panel. And one of my good friends and mentors, he's actually my mentor and my sensei, John Boy Myers, who's this awesome concept artist over at Riot, and did comics as well before that for, you know, Marvel, DC, all the big names. Absolutely an awesome guy. He taught me about breaking the panel, the proper way to do it. And he said, really, really break the panel when you want to, you know, like save it. Save breaking the panel for when you really want to show something dramatic is happening, something very, very important. He said, otherwise, never, ever break the panel. Never, ever break the panel unless there's something really, really important happening. So another thing I decided to do was add a little bit more action into her run. So I tilted her to the side, and I broke her off of the back of this panel, right? Because it's like if she's running forward and she's breaking the panel, and then you have this panel in front of her, again, this panel is like more important. Like subconsciously, you'll be like, oh, it's okay. you know, she's still behind that panel. But if you put her in front of everything, it just jumps right out of you, and you feel much more engaged and excited about what's happening, and it's very, very important to you. So that was a big change that I made there. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to page 11. This is one of the I was so excited to do this. So it's like, yay, Emma and Nico are gonna meet. That's so cute, so romantic for a woman to just tackle a man out of nowhere after he tries to kill her and pins him against the wall with a toothbrush. I just love that. That's the best way to start a relationship, I'd say. All right, so one of the things I was playing around with was eliminating this panel and moving it up here. And I think maybe subconsciously what I was working with, or what I was trying to work with, was I didn't like the fact that this panel was in front of this one. So I was thinking about moving it to the top of page 11. But then I just decided against it. And I just went ahead with it, and then later on I corrected my course. So moving on to page 11, we've got obviously the action happening here where Emma is tackling Nico. And I just think it's so funny to look back and see how simple and kind of rudimentary the original sketches can be and what they become after you refine them. And you got Nico basically smacking his head against the wall and kind of sliding down. Emma's got her hand on his chest and kind of got the toothbrush aimed at him in a very hostile manner. Let's go ahead and move on to this, and you can see what it became. All right, so you've got her doing this. I think a big challenge that I had here was with two characters interacting, I wanted you to be able to squint your eyes and still be able to tell where Emma's body was and where Nico's body was. And luckily, the contrast of Emma's lighter skin against Nico's kind of darker clothing made it so that you can squint your eyes and clearly see where Emma is and where Nico is. And then another challenge that I had here was showing the line of action. Like, I'm really big on just showing lines of action whenever things are happening. So I just wanted to feel like a really, really powerful force is just like knocking Nico right off of his feet. Right? He's just like sailing through the air. And another thing that I decided to do was originally I had the shotgun in the frame, and then I decided to just go ahead and break the frame with the shotgun, so it looks like it's just like flying right out of the comic, you know? I like that little touch. It's funny what the little subtleties can do for the readability and kind of the fun of your comic. And then you got him cracking his head against the back of the wall. And for those of you, like, I was totally thinking about this the whole time when I was drawing it. I was like, okay, so Emma's trademark when she gets hurt, basically, is she always lands on her face, right? She always lands on her face. Even if she, like, trips backwards, she spins in the air and lands on her face. And then Nico's thing is apparently now getting hit in the chest and then smacking the back of his head on something. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just like that. It's all about consistency, right? Consistency. Characters got to have trademark ways to fall down and get hurt. All right, and then we ended it with this. But then, the last thing that came to my mind was, okay, so she's pinning him down against this wall, right? And if we go back to page 9, we notice, look, she's pinning him against this wall right here, right? And the zombie is in that doorway. The zombie is basically right there, and she's pinning him against the wall. So what I realized is that now we're in the real world. The zombie is basically going to be laying right next to them. And originally when I laid it out, it didn't have that, right? It's just like there. So I realized I was going to have to put some sort of shape there, right? And this is supposed to represent the zombie's body. But I realized it's kind of like, it's just vague enough that it could be, oh, hey, it's like a stylistic way to end the comic. It's kind of like a ripped page, right? But then other people might realize, oh, no, I think that's actually the body of the dead zombie that Emma cut the head off of. That's pretty weird. That's pretty weird and crazy. But yeah, so that's why that shape is there, because there's a dead zombie corpse right next to them. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and wrap up that portion of the director's commentary. We're going to go ahead and move into a couple things that I want to talk about in terms of starting a business, and a couple things that have been going through my mind as far as the experience thus far. All right. So, let's see. So I got a few things that I want to talk about. In fact, I mean, I've got so many things that I want to talk about. I might just focus on, I'm going to focus on one at a time and see kind of where the time takes us. And then as time allows in future episodes, I'll go into more. But I got a bunch of things that I want to talk about. But first, we'll focus on today about something that's really been helping me out with the accomplishment of making this comic and just getting things done in general, getting my goals done and like the things that I say I'm going to do throughout the day done, right? And you know what the secret is? It's right here. The journal. The journal that I purchased from Barnes & Noble. And basically what I do is this past week, what I've been doing is I'll wake up in the morning, and I think the power of this, well, let me explain exactly what I do, and then I'll explain the power. What I do is when I wake up in the morning, I'll just write down. It's be like 10:30, woke up. My plan is to go downstairs and eat some oatmeal, right? And then that's my plan. I go down and I do it, and then I write down, like say I come back at like 11 o'clock. Be like, did that. Maybe something I'm thinking about for the comic, what I'm going to do today. You know, I'll write down, basically what I'm doing is I'm chunking my day into like little bite-sized pieces, whether it's by hour, by half an hour, by 20 minutes, doesn't matter. Like if I'm just doing something that's important, I'll write it down in the journal. If it's a small goal that I want to do, like say I want to lay in the masks for just one page, right? Before, the way I used to do my days, before the way I used to structure my days was, oh, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to work on the comic. And I'd set some big goal about like, hey, I want to get 3 pages done today, right? And then most of the time at the end of the day, I wouldn't do that, right? Because it's like this big, huge goal unless it's basically all or nothing. But now what I'm doing is I'm chunking all of my goals into little tiny bite-sized pieces. And I'm getting my brain subconsciously used to the fact that whatever I set down in this journal, whatever goal I set in this journal gets done, right? And they're just silly little tiny goals. It could be something as simple as like get a drink of water and take my supplements, or go outside and relax for 20 minutes. Like literally, relaxing is a plan. Relax for 20 minutes and think about nothing, which is actually very, very important. That's another thing I'm starting to learn is taking proper amounts of rest between your times of working can actually improve, and you'll actually get more done throughout the day by resting more. By resting more and resting properly, you'll actually get more done than if you were to not rest at all and just go at it and go at it, go at it, go at it, right? Because you're going to get distracted more easily. You're gonna, you know, things are going to bother you. You're going to get ticked off. You're going to get artist block. You know, there's going to be a lot of things that stand in your way. But if you chunk your day into little tiny steps of, hey, I want to sketch out this panel. Hey, I want to draw this character's facial expression. You could even do something like that. Just chunk it into these little tiny goals, and then when you're done with it, just write it down. Write down. I always write down what time it is, and then at the end of the week, sometimes I like to go back through it and I'll read through it and be like, "Whoa! Look at all the stuff I got done today. Look at all these little things that I got done. Look at the big things I got done." And then you look at the end of the day. You look at everything that happened throughout the day and be like, "Man, I got a lot of stuff done." And then the magic of it is not only that you get more stuff done by writing it down, taking proper breaks, and attaining your goals, but it does, like I said, it subconsciously aligns your mind with the fact that, hey, I attain my goals. I do it. I set a goal and I do it. And I think there's real magic to that. There is there's an awesome magic to knowing that you attain your goals, because trust me, this is something that I wish I would have found out earlier, like when I was working back at Riot. Because similar to the comic, my days at Riot would be, okay, today I'm going to get this splash page done, right? Or I'm going to get this far into the splash, and it's just like this huge goal, right? And then I would usually, like 90% of the time, I wouldn't get to a point where I was satisfied, right? So what that does, the damage that that does, is that that sort of process continued over days and days and weeks and weeks and months and months. Eventually, your subconscious says, I do not attain my goals. Most of the time, I don't attain my goals. And then you kind of stop setting goals because you don't want to disappoint. You can only disappoint yourself for so long. And then you start to get fed up. So then you're just like, I'm just going to get done whatever gets done today. And like, what kind of a terrible mindset is that? Like, what kind of life do you expect to gain from that? What kind of future do you expect to create for yourself with the goal of, I'll just get, and it's not even a goal. It's just like, no, I'm just going to do whatever. You know, so this is something I wish I would have done, because if I would have done this back then, I would have been like, okay, today I'm just gonna mask this part of the material, right? Say I'm drawing some armor. I could even put it down in my plan. It's like I'm gonna study the way that this type of metallic armor interacts with this type of light. You know, something, make it fun, make it a plan, and then you attain it, and you're just like, yes, look at all this stuff I learned today. I learned how this metal looks like when a golden sunset is shining on it, and how it just like, how to make it look super realistic and show all the little cracks and scratches in it. You know, as opposed to, oh, we gotta get this done, gotta get this done, gotta get this done, go, 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 no rest, no rest, no rest, wrist is hurting, don't care, no rest, no rest, no rest, back is hurting, don't care, no rest, no rest, no rest. And then eventually you have to go see a chiropractor because you are messing up your entire body because you're not resting and you think you're getting more work done, you're actually getting less done, and you're hating life in the process. So, you can tell I'm very passionate about this, right? So that's why I'm saying you don't want to do that. You don't want to get into that mindset of, I usually never get my goals done. And get a journal. If you don't have a journal, and just start writing it down on pieces of paper. And again, like, it sounds so hokey. I thought it was so hokey the first time I heard it. It was like, journals are like a diary? Those are for girls. I don't need that. I'm a man. I can take care of my life. I got it all up here. I got it all up here. And it just, after I tried it a couple times, it was like, well, whoa, wait a second. After I write stuff down here, after I write down my problems and my goals in this book, I don't have to think about them. I don't have to think about them for the rest of the day. Like, it's just a little checklist. And it's like, got it, got it, got it, good, good, good. And the cool thing about that is that I can fully allow my mind now, like at the beginning of the day, I'll set up my goals, right? All my little goals. And then during the times where I'm resting, I can literally think about nothing. Because my mind is just I allow my mind to just be completely free, just release all of the worries, all of the things that normally would have to stay up here. You get that? Normally all my plans would have to stay here, and I have to pretend like I'm relaxing. But now that everything is here, I can literally empty my mind, relax, and then the cool thing about that is once you empty your mind, cool thoughts. Like when you empty your mind, thoughts that normally would not be able to get in, thoughts about how to make a more efficient business, thoughts about how you can bring more value to the product that you're giving out away, you know, or selling. You know, all these ideas of how to improve everything that's going on within your business will come to you. It's almost like you're meditating. You're like, oh, how do I make my business better? Oh, how do I make my product better? And then it comes to you because your mind is clear, because all of your thoughts are right here, and you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to worry about forgetting them because you just look right back there. All right, so all right, guys, we got 5 minutes to go, so I'm going to continue talking a little bit more about this stuff. In the meantime, I would invite you to cast your question catapults right over if you have any other questions. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep blabbing for the last 5 minutes, and then we'll end day 34 of the KNKL MS stream. I'm going to go ahead and pull up iTunes so we can have our epic music outro. And I'm feeling good. I love talking about this stuff. Like, I'm so like pumped about just life in general. I know that my life is going to be awesome because of this. And the other thing that I like about it is that at the end of the week, at the end of the month, I'll just be reading things, right? I'll read like, oh, I'm eating oatmeal right now and I'm thinking about this. Or this just happened. I saw this happen. And then I instantly go back to that point. And it's like, whoa. I can almost like taste the oatmeal again. You know, it just like recalls these memories. And normally, I would never be able to do that. It's like, I just can't explain in words like how awesome it is to write down your thoughts and then how reading them again will bring back memories. And yeah, I just think that's definitely, that's the way that it's working for me. And I think a giant mosquito eater just flew in here, and that is going to creep the heck out of me. Okay, I hate those things, man. Oh. Alright, stop buzzing. Stop buzzing for now. Alright, I'm just going to pretend like it's not there. I'm going to take care of it after the show. Take care of it. It's right there. Ah! I'm going to kill it. Okay. Okay. Alright, Reed Kitty is asking a great question here. Reed Kitty is asking a great question. He's asking, will you ever do a featured artwork of the month contest? Interesting. I haven't thought of that. I have been wanting to do a contest for a while now. Now that we're getting like the prints and the posters and things that I can start giving away for winners of the contests, yes, I do want to do that. And just the same way that I have like this little donators thing, the monthly donators, I think that would be cool for anyone who wins the contest. You know, I'll also feature them and be like, hey, we had a contest like last week, and this is the winner from that. And I'll feature you throughout the week or throughout the month or just however long I feel like featuring you. Forever! Forever placed upon something. I'll definitely make a web page, like a place on the web where you can check out like contest entries and or at least contest winners. But yeah, I mean that's a whole other avenue that I haven't put much thought into yet, aside from the fact that I want to do contests. But yeah, that's definitely down the road, and that will be happening. Shiny prizes for all. Shiny prizes for all. All right. Brian Hogan is asking, for those wanting to pitch ideas for the Emma comic, where would one do that? To be honest, Brian, you can do it wherever you want. I invite people to, like I've said before, I mean, there's not a lot of zombies that have been happening in the comic just yet, but rest assured, we got some good scenes coming up that are going to involve a lot of zombies. So if you want to pitch an idea of like a design of a zombie, or you want to draw yourself as a zombie, you can post that to the Facebook, and I'll probably end up using it when that time in the story comes. But if you have ideas for like stories or just things like that, you can post them on the Facebook, you can send me a message. I can't guarantee, obviously I can't guarantee that I'm going to use everybody's idea, because remember, again, like I'm making this comic, like I have an idea of where I want this to go, but definitely if you have a good idea, like I said, Alicia did that awesome fan comic, and just the layout of it, just the layout of that panel inspired me to use that kind of shattered frame effect. So I can't promise I'll use everybody's ideas, but definitely if you want to throw stuff out there, and if I end up using that idea, I will definitely have your name in the credits at the end of the comic. And that's really cool because it's always going to be there, even once the print, like the printed version of the comic, the physical hard copy of it comes out, your name is going to be in that comic, baby, for time and all eternity. So it's good that you get started right now. Think about your future, right? Think about your future. Write it down. Use it as a journal. And invest in your future. And create something awesome for me, and I'll use it, and I'll put your name in the book. So, alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and end day 34 of the KNKL stream. Thank you guys once again for joining me live on Ustream. For those of you on YouTube, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Kienan Lafferty. You guys take care of yourselves. Today is Wednesday, right? Yeah. So tomorrow we'll resume our normally scheduled programming. I'll see you guys again then. Until then, you guys take care.